Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the 69 Camaro rebuild. It is a hot end of June. It's about 90 degrees outside. We're coming up to the 4th of July, but no barbecue for us today. We need to wrap up this job. So we've got the Gatorades going, and we are situated back at the main lift in the shop. We're out of the satellite area, so a little bit more room and a lot more tools to take advantage of here. So, as you see, the panels have been returned to the car. They have been mock fitted. Now, nothing has been bolted down. A lot of the bolts are still missing. This is like a first fitting, just to see how everything lines up. New hinges are in, the cowl, the retainer panel. Next is to line all of these items up and tighten down on them. But before that happens, what we need to do is work on the engine. Get it running and make sure if there are any parts or any components that we need to get to now, let's do it while we still have the panels not in final assembly. So before we do that, one thing we should look into is making sure that the oil pump is primed. The last thing you want to do is start up an engine and realize that over time the oil pump has stopped working and it's not really delivering oil up to the top of the engine where it can do its lubrication and cooling job. Now, the way that's done in a Chevy V8 is through the distributor opening. The oil pump is located in the rear bottom of the engine, and it's connected via the distributor shaft. So the cam gear connects to the distributor gear, and we'll show you that shortly, to the oil pump through a rod. That rod spins the oil pump, which then shoots the oil up to the top of the engine, and it trickles back down into the oil pan. So what we want to do is make sure that the oil pump is primed, that it's got oil in all of its components, that as soon as it starts spinning, the oil is already at the top. So in order to make sure that the oil pump is primed without actually spinning the engine, engineers have come up with a great tool. This is an oil pump priming tool, and what this does is this goes down the distributor shaft and it actually connects. If you look there at the end, it's got a pin similar to the drive shaft that spins that oil pump down there. So what you do is you insert this into the pump and then connect a drill and you spin it up without the engine actually moving, and what that'll do is that'll prime the pump. It'll get air out of the system, it'll get oil up through the push rods and into the cylinder head and flowing back down again. Now, in order to do that, it's a bit of a complicated job, so we'll go through it step by step. In order to do that, first what we want to do is we want to have one side valve cover off. The valve cover bolts are in with hex bolts. So what we want to do is we want to go in, and they're not really tightened on there, extremely tight. We want to loosen that up. We're going to go along. We're going to loosen up all four of those. Fair enough. Bolts. We've removed our blaster coil. We take out our PCB unit, move that to the side, and get our distributor wires out of the way. And as you see, the valve cover just lifts right off. We want to be very gentle with that. There's a small rubber gasket in there that seals, and as you see, look how clean that is. So now we are looking in on top of the cylinder head, coming from this side. We are looking into the cylinder head, and this is cylinder 1, 3, 5, 7, the exhaust valve, the intake valve, the exhaust valve. What we want to do is we're going to make sure that the piston is in top dead center, and the way that's done is you make sure that both of these valves are absolutely slack and that distributor that is ready to fire to the spark plug. The way we do that is with a flywheel tool. Now, an excellent way to make sure that you are absolutely top dead center is with a tool that Snap-on has built. You can get other versions as well, but this is called a flywheel tool, and this goes underneath the car. You line this up to the flywheel, to the tooth of the flywheel, and you're able to do very small adjustments to make sure that you're absolutely at TDC, that both valves are slack, and you're ready to fire the piston, and then you can do the final adjustment within the distributor. So soon what we will do is we're going to lift the car up, we're going to spin it around a little bit, and we're going to make sure that we are at TDC. Alrighty, so now we have the valve cover off, but what we want to do is we want to also expose the distributor. First thing we want to do is we want to take off the distributor cap of our MSD billet distributor, and the way we do that is we release the two fast clips, and we gently remove that off of the distributor unit. Now we see that there are some wires that are routed around that. What I want to do is I just want to disconnect that one, and that'll help us move this to the side. Now this is the firing pin. When this lines up to a corresponding diode on the distributor cap, it fires through the spark plug wire into the spark plug. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that our distributor is lined up to top dead center, which is typically right here on a Chevy, before we remove it. And that's what we'll do. We'll raise the car up a little bit, we'll spin this around, make sure it's lined up as close as can be, and then we'll do the final tuning. So we've gotten cylinder 1 to TDC, and the way we know that is both valves are slack and the distributor is marked and pointing to cylinder 1. So what we want to do is after we take out the distributor, we want to make sure it goes back into the same spot. Now the way we do that, the distributor is held down with the distributor clamp. We want to loosen that up. The way that's done is with a 9/16 wrench. Loosen that up a bit. It doesn't have to come out. We're just going to move it out of the way. And I think we've gotten it. It's loosened up. We just move this away over here. And this is the connector for our MSD. We disconnect that. Our distributor is essentially ready to come out. The way we do that is we just jiggle it a little bit, take off the vacuum line, and it comes out. And that is an MSD billet distributor. It has a brass ring gear to make sure that it does not mar the cam gear. And that is a one-piece unit. It goes with the MSD ignition system. So now what we'll do is we will insert our fuel pump tool in there. We'll start driving our pump to make sure that gets primed. Alrighty, now that we have our distributor out, we want to insert our oil pump tool. The way we do that is we look down into the oil pump hole and insert the tool until we get a firm fit. And I felt it fall into the groove, and now I can feel that I am turning the pump. Now that the tool is inserted, you can see all the oil that got driven up into the tool. Alrighty, so we have the distributor button back up again. We have primed our pump, reinserted the distributor back, haven't tightened it down all the way because we still need to find that prime spot where the marks should be lined up. So we leave it a little bit loose so we can make that final adjustment. Put the valve cover back on, all the components back here are on. Now, just to give you a little understanding how this ignition system works is we put it in an MSD 6A computer. What this does is this is a multiple spark discharge system, and this really heats up that spark to make sure that the intake gases have a very good burn. Now, what this does is this takes that ignition spark, it routes it through to this blaster coil. This blaster coil essentially is the capacitor. What it does is it intensifies the heat of that spark, sends it over to the distributor, and then when the distributor mark lines up, goes through the individual distributor wire to the spark plug. Now, because we're still in a shop situation, we don't want to put gas into the gas tank just yet. So what we'll do is we'll pour some gasoline down the throat of the car, we'll start it up, we'll see what happens. Fingers crossed, I think we've got everything worked out, but you never know. So we have our throttle body open, we're just going to pour some gasoline down there, hit the trigger. Ready? Hit it. Hit it. Hit it again. Hit it again. Alrighty. Start it up.